Hi, my name is McKenna, and the biomes I'm going to be talking to you about today is deserts. There are many different deserts across the world. In North America, there is the Sonarban Desert, the Chihuahua Desert, the Mojave Desert, and the Great Basin Desert. In Australia, there is the Great Victoria Desert and the Great Sandy. In South America, there is the Patagonian and Argentinian deserts, located in the Atacama region. In the Arabian Peninsula, there is a huge desert that extends to Syria and Israel. In Africa, there is the famous Sahara Desert, the Kalahari Desert, and the Danakil Desert. There are even some cold deserts in the Antarctic and Central Asia. There are many abiotic factors in deserts. For example, sand. The soil of a desert is mainly comprised of vast sections of sand spanning over miles of land. The sand is dry and not mineral rich, enabling very little plant life to thrive on its foundation. But sometimes in cold deserts, moss and grass will join sand to make up the land and create a very mineral rich soil. Precipitation of deserts vary, depending on if the desert is a dry, semi-arid, coastal, or a cold desert. The amount of rainfall is different. Hot and dry deserts yield usually less than 10 inches of rain per year. Cold deserts may not receive much more, but it could be in the occasional form of snow, as opposed to rain. Another abiotic factor is temperature. Hot and dry deserts are located very near to the equator and have a very warm temperature range, which is 20 to 25 degrees Celsius, with an extreme of about 45 degrees Celsius. Cold deserts, like in the Antarctic and Central Asia, are different from hot deserts in that their temperatures drop down much more during winter. Cold deserts temperatures range from about -2 to 4 degrees Celsius in winter, and in the summer 21 to 26 degrees Celsius. Now I'm going to talk to you about some desert plants and how they adapt to their environment. Some plants that live in the desert are called succulents, which are usually cacti and stone crops, and these plants store water in their stems or leaves. Some of these plants, although, have no leaves or small seasonal leaves that only grow after it rains. This lack of leaves helps reduce water loss during photosynthesis. Leafless plants conduct photosynthesis in their green stems. Pyrethophytes, like sagebrush, have long root systems spread out wide, or they go deep into the ground and absorb water. This helps them to gain water. Some plants have a short life cycle, germinating in response to rain, growing, flowering, and dying within 1 year. These plants can evade drought. Leaves with hair, like the desert yellow fleabean, help shade the plant, reducing water loss. Other plants have leaves that turn throughout the day to expose a minimum surface area to the heat. Some plants, like cacti, have spines that discourage animals from eating the plants for water. Or they have waxy coating on stems, and this even helps to reduce water loss. Flowers that open at night lure pollinators who are more likely to be active during the cooler night. Slower growing requires less energy. The plants don't have to make as much food and therefore do not lose as much water. Also, I'm going to talk to you about the animals that live in the desert and how they adapt to the environment around them. A lot of these animals are very good at dissipating heat. They have long appendages, for example, legs or ears, or they have small bodies that radiate heat of the desert. An example of this would be the fennec fox. Some animals can also tolerate hypothermia, which happens in the cold deserts. They can survive body temperatures that would be too dangerous to humans. An example of this would be the antelope squirrel. An example of an animal who can survive without water is the camel. Some animals can go without water for a very long time, like the camel. It stores large amounts of water with the help of the hump on its back, an adaptation that allows it to stay hydrated even in the driest deserts. I'm going to explain to you about the autotrophs that are in the desert. So autotrophs are organisms that derive their nutrition from converting inorganic carbon sources to organic molecules. The predominant autotrophs of deserts are shrubs and small trees. The shrubs need long roots to penetrate the sparse soil and reach water, and they often have other adaptive features to cope with low water levels, such as hairy silver-covered leaves, which help minimize water loss in the heat and wind. For example, in the North American Great Basin, shrubs such as several pieces of sagebush, greasewood, blackbush, and rabbitbush are common. Trees include the Utah juniper and the pinyon pine. Now, to complete the full food web for the desert, you need the heterotrophs, which are the carnivores and herbivores. Carnivores are predators that chiefly eat meat, although some will consume plants. Carnivores will drink water when it is available, but are not dependent on it since the moisture-rich flesh of their prey satisfies their water needs. This group includes such well-known members as the coyote, the owl, the kit fox, the gray fox, the bobcat, and the mountain lion. A herbivore is an animal that eats only plants and no meat. This group includes the turtles, rodents, rabbits, and hares. As herbivores, they primarily eat plants, although some will supplement their diet with insects and dead or decaying flesh. They rely on their diet to satisfy both their food and water needs, especially when living in the desert. Also on the food web are the scavengers and the decomposers. The scavenger is a type of animal that consumes already dead organic life forms. Scavengers play an important role in the ecosystem by contributing to the decomposition of dead animal remains. Some scavengers in the desert include vultures, coyotes, and ravens. Many large carnivores that hunt regularly, such as the coyote and mountain lions, will scavenge if the opportunity presents itself. Decomposers are the last stop on the food chain, and they eat the things no one else wants to. Decomposers many times eat dead things from the ground in order to get nutrients. The dead things that are eaten by decomposers are called detritus, which means garbage. In the desert, it is hard for many decomposers to stay alive because they like moist areas. One of the only decomposers in deserts is bacteria, because they are so small and can live in the air. Some of the other decomposers are beetles, earthworms, and millipedes. Like any other biomes, the desert comes with many environmental problems. Global warming, for example, is increasing the incidence of drought, which dries up waterholes. Higher temperatures also may produce an increasing number of wildfires that alter desert landscapes by eliminating slow-growing trees and shrubs and replacing them with fast-growing grasses. Also, irrigation used for agriculture may in the long term lead to salt levels in the soil that become too high to support plants, ultimately drying out the ground, creating cracks. If there are also grazing animals, they can destroy many desert plants and animals. Also, if there's any gold mine, the potassium cyanide can poison the wildlife. Another factor is the off-road vehicles, which, when used irresponsibly, can cause irreparable damage to desert habitats. Oil and gas production may disrupt sensitive habitat, along with the nuclear waste being dumped in deserts, which may have also been used as nuclear testing grounds. To combat these problems, America has created national parks to help protect these deserts. All the national parks with deserts are found in California, Nevada, Utah, Colorado, Arizona, New Mexico, and Texas. One of the most breathtaking national state parks is the Anza Borrega, located in Nevada. Here's a picture of it here. All these are protected under the state and by the park rangers. Deserts play an important role in the world's ecosystem. Deserts host many plants and animals. These animals live in an environment that strikes many humans as oppressive, but the desert can be helpful to its inhabitants. For example, one positive aspect is solar energy. The desert has so much that green plants are able to convert it into food fuels. Although in most ecosystems plants compete for sunlight, here most plants are adapted to minimize the effects of too much solar energy. A desert also gives home to many cold-blooded animals, making them feel closer to the heat. In conclusion, deserts are one thing that needs to be protected and preserved, and environmentalists are working hard at this by constantly making pleas for desert preservation. The latest act of these environmentalists was the result of efforts initiated in 2009 in response to the increasing number of wind and solar farms being developed in the California deserts. Expanding the areas of land conservation can also help protect at-risk plant and animal species that are struggling to thrive in the local region. This latest announcement actually doubles the amount of acreage protected as national monuments in the United States. Overall, restoring deserts has become a growing concern in the United States. This is especially true in several of the western states. On February 12th, President Obama designated 3 monuments, both encompassing 1.8 million acres of desert land, and he put this aside for permanent conservation. This is a great step for deserts, and as a human race, we need to work hard to complete this step and to save our deserts. Now here's a video. Oh, you showed me this video. Yeah. Okay, don't let anyone touch this.
Well, the definition of a desert is quite clear. It's a place that gets less than 10
Oh, I
inches
have
of
another
rain a
result.
year. 10 inches of rain? Why, that number is small. In fact, there are some deserts that don't get any rain at all. The deserts of the Earth cover 20%, with the desert existing on every continent. The largest in the world is in Antarctica. The Sahara is the second largest in Africa.
So I might
There
not
are
even
4
need
types
that.
of deserts.
Because I
The
talked
hot
about other
and the
results,
cold,
I interpret the
semi-arid
results.
and the coastal are
Again,
the
I was
more
just
the
following the
optimal.
structure of the
Desert's
rubric to
temperature
start with,
night
and
day
so that's why I
changes
have
like
it.
100 to 40 degrees is what his daily ranges. The cold desert temperature is really not great, with an average temperature of negative 28. With conditions so wacky, how does life thrive? Well, there are some plants and animals that do stay alive. Some plants that live in the desert are these: barrel cacti, prickly pear, and Joshua trees. Aloe, yucca, and the desert spoon. Now let's talk about some animals that live there too. The herbivores include the fat sand rat, desert lark, the gopher, and the addax. Fox, lizard, coyote are the carnivores. Gila moths and great jerboa are the omnivores. A typical desert food chain would have the bunt sage, the producer, eaten by the quail, the primary consumer, which is then eaten by the coyote, a secondary consumer. Another food chain would have the desert lily, the producer, eaten by the Jerusalem cricket, the primary consumer, which is then eaten by the whiptail lizard, the secondary consumer, and finally eaten by the speckled rattlesnake, a third-level consumer. Aren't food chains wonderful? Yeah! What do these plants do to stay alive? Well, they have to adapt, just like the cacti, who store excess water in its stems and roots, while other plants store water in leaves and fruits. They're called succulents, and that's one way to be. Other plants make sure their leaves are waxy. This prevents water loss throughout the day by stopping water from evaporating away. Other plants make sure their leaves are small, so they aren't affected by transpiration at all. The animals in deserts adapt without fail, like the Gila moth who holds water in its tail. Most animals just stay in the shade by digging underground or sleeping during the day. Some animals get the water they need by sucking all the moisture from the food they eat. The water-holding frog spends a year in a cocoon and only comes out once in a blue moon. The jackrabbit's big ears let it release heat, while the camel stores water in its hump when it eats. There are few decomposers in this area, like the dung beetle, fungi, and bacteria. This is the desert, once and for all. I'm Cowboy C, saying peace out, y'all.
Oh, I have it. Oh, you have it. Take your side.